G'day everyone, it's Courtesy and welcome to an On The Backwheel video. Today I'm reviewing the Dunlop K750 tyres. Let's get into it. Alright, I'll just grab these tyres. Review done. Alright, now we've finished being silly, let's get into the actual review. And before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Alright, the tyres I have are the Dunlop K750s, as I mentioned earlier. We have a 90, 90, 21 on the front and a 130, 18, 17 on the rear. Now I've had them on my KLR 650 and I did approximately 2,300 kilometers on them. The style of riding I do is a mixture of commuting and adventure riding pretty much. Adventure riding for me is heading out on the highway, getting to my trails, which are basically all off-road, and doing a mixture of fire trails, dirt tracks, leaf litter, rocks, and maybe some enduro stuff thrown in as well. Okay, while I did throw these in the bin earlier, these are actually a very good on-road tyre. They're just borderline terrible off-road. Let's have a look at the tyres. This is the front here. It's quite a soft carcass on these and they are quite light as well, especially compared to more off-road focused tyres. The rear too is quite soft rubber and that's why they are quite good on road, I believe. These are honestly a really good road tyre. I've been very happy with how they perform on the road. Riding to and from work, I've had no issues at all. Highway use, they're very quiet, there's no noise from them whatsoever. And something really pleasing is if you hit a road snake or a rut on the road, you know, some tyres will grab it and kind of follow it. These just track straight and true, no issues at all on the road. If you get into some twisties, these are really good tyres. They feel completely confidence inspiring in the dry and wet conditions. I've ridden in a lot of rain and they have been pretty well faultless. In the twisties, you can push them pretty hard, you know, nothing crazy, you know, they aren't a proper street bike tyre, but on my KLR, it feels fantastic on the street with these tyres on. In wet conditions, I didn't feel them slip at all. They were great. You know, some kind of knobby tyres will slip out every now and again and get you a little bit nervous. These haven't done that at all. Once I was able to do a compression lockup with the rear, backing it down into first. The rear slid out in a really wet conditions. I've tried to replicate it, but I haven't been able to since. So while these are a really good road tyre, when you get off-road, they're not great. Now I would call these probably an 80-20 tyre, in looks at least. Performance is a bit iffy, but they probably are comparable to some other 80-20 tyres, at least in performance. If you're doing basic trails off-road, like gravel, fire roads, and kind of just your grassy stuff that isn't too wet, these are actually not too bad at all. However, as soon as things get wet or a little bit treacherous, these are not very good. I've ridden these in a variety of conditions: gravel, mud, rocks, you name it, leaf litter, everything. And as soon as things get wet or a little bit slippery, these, you know, they just don't perform. Especially in the mud, these just cake up really badly. You can see at the moment the knobs are all but gone. They're pretty well slicks. We'll talk more on the wear later. But these will cake up very easily, and then due to their design, they don't throw the mud off either, which is really annoying. So the front tyre as well, it doesn't really get traction or stick into ruts or anything like that. As soon as it's wet or anything, it will just slip out on you, which is very, very annoying and frustrating. It caused me to crash numerous times. So basically these aren't a very good off-road tyre at all. If you can do some basic off-roading like a gravel, green lanes and kind of fire trails, these are completely fine, use them. If you're more like me and you do kind of more off-road riding, these are terrible. Let's get down here and talk about tyre life. As I mentioned, I had 2,300 kilometers on these, which is not very much at all. The front tyre is quite good and has plenty of wear still, as you can see. It didn't wear too badly at all. The rear is completely chewed out. It is absolutely cooked. The center here is completely done. It's basically flat. There's nothing there at all. The sides here are not too bad. But this tire has been like this since, I would say, 1,800 kilometers. It has been that chewed out. I've just been commuting on it and destroying it till I put my new tyres on. Now I can accept poor performance if the tyre life is there. However, to get 1800 kilometers out of a rear tyre is terrible. There was once when the pressures did drop below the recommended, but I pumped them straight back up and it actually caused cracks and everything in the knobs, and it has been pulling knobs off as well. And this isn't exactly a powerhouse, the KLR 650. You can see here we've got some cuts and shreds. I do a little bit of rocky stuff, but nothing crazy. And when I ride off-road, I only dropped them to about 20 PSI, which is well within your expected limits when you're riding off-road. I will say this, I have not got any punctures or flats, which has been fantastic, though after 2300 kilometers, you would be very annoyed if you did. Kawasaki recommend you run 21 PSI on the front and between 21 and 36 on the rear, depending on the kind of riding you are doing and the load that you have on the bike. Now, if you're running 21 PSI on the rear, it's going to get absolutely destroyed like mine. I was running mine at 30 and it was still getting destroyed. I think you have to run these tyres a little bit harder because they're really soft carcass, and you might get some better tyre life on the road. Off-road, they're still going to completely chew off. They just don't last off-road, especially when you're doing rocky stuff and slightly wet. When they're spinning, it just chews them out completely. So who are the Dunlop K750s for? Well, for one, they are for KLR 650 riders because they come on the KLR 650. Now, a lot of people don't even use them. They will change them out before they get their KLR 650s. Me personally, I just left them on to get a feel for the bike, see how the tyres were. I would not begrudge anyone if they change them straight away. That's completely your choice. For me, I use them to run in the bike. If you're doing more road work and everything, leave them on. See how they last. Use them. When they chew out, the rear will chew out pretty quick. Put something else on that's more suited to the kind of riding you're doing. The question I ask myself for every review is, would I buy a set? And this is a hard no. Do not buy a set of these. I would not buy a set. If your tyres chew out on your KLR 650, don't buy another set of Dunlop K750s. Get something else. There's a million other great tyres out there you can buy, from your 80-20s to your 50-50s, 60-40s, or or your more off-road orientated tyres. Go for something like that. Don't buy another set of these. Yes, they are pretty cheap, but a lot of tyres are cheap. You can get some Shinkos or something for cheaper than this, and they are a much better tyre. Right, that concludes my review for the Dunlop K750s. If you like what I'm doing, hit that like and subscribe button. And before we go, have you got a set of Dunlop K750s or have you used them in the past? What did you think of them and what kind of tyre life did you get from them? All right, keep it on the back wheel, everyone. Catches.